Hello. Hopefully, I should be live and just making sure everything's set up. Hopefully, everything's working fine here. Uh, what was the story with the science project that went wrong? No idea. I don't really remember. Well, I barely remember that earlier on today. Um, I don't know. I'm sure someone else will probably remember which story that was or when that was recorded. So hello everyone to this. This is the 44th sleep meditation creation session. Thank you for joining me here. As usual, I will try to get the story started at 10:30. So about halfway or 30 minutes into this, and I will try and yep, you've made it to the beginning. Yep. And I'll put a time stamp, obviously, in the description. I always have to. I go on Facebook for a little while after the live streams, while I wait for the for YouTube to process the video enough for me to be able to put a timestamp. Sometimes it tells me it's processed it. I put a timestamp, and then it is the timestamp that seems to work for that moment in time, and then it turns out it's like 10-15 minutes out when the video is really processed, even though it was right when I did it. So sometimes that happens and people end up letting me know, which is very kind. So there will be a timestamp for whatever the time is that the sleep meditation ends up happening. This will work like normal, about 20 minutes of chatting, settling into the stream, me getting comfortable in front of the camera, etc., and responding obviously to the live chat, and then uh, about before half past, getting ideas from yourselves, like single words and things that I can create a story around, and then that's what I'll do at about 10:30. So that's the introduction. Was it last week's? I can't even remember what we did last week. I was just looking at the page for last week to try and recall what the story was. I was thinking, I can't remember in the slightest what I spoke about last week. So I was trying to look at my sheet from last week. Not that you can see that because of the light. But I was trying to look at the sheet and try and work out what the one from last week was. I can't even remember the one from the week before. What was that? Hiking, butterflies, mountains, parallel universe. Nope, can't remember what I did that week either. Can't even remember which one it is that I've edited that's going live tomorrow. Just trying to see what one's going live tomorrow. The one that's going live tomorrow is from week 41 with the Ice Queen. There was the Ice Palace. I think it's that one. Maybe. Yeah, must be that one. Oh, yes. The Knights of the Triangular Table. Yeah, it is that one. So, yeah, so I can never remember. They're ones that the short stories I've been uploading, it isn't intentional. It's literally in alphabetical order because that's how they're listed on my computer. They're the ones from 2017 and earlier, the current ones. So the ones from that are on my 2017 albums. So that's tracks from like 2004ish up to 2017. Obviously, that just happens to be the length of the stuff that I was doing back then, largely. I was surprised that many of them were so short, but it's just purely alphabetical order. So it's potluck what length they were going to be. It's not intentional. So I noticed most of those first ones that I've done are reasonably short, but they're all on my channel anyway. It's just um, I'm re-uploading versions with the background music. Um, so no, I haven't thought about it as changing the look of my channel much. It's just it's a difficult one, and I'm often talking to Abby about it, about the uh, trying to please everyone and how difficult that is, and that I end up making myself so niche by trying to please everyone. So I know there are people who like a completely black screen rather than just turning their phone upside down or tablet upside down or whatever, or putting something over the screen if it's like a TV screen or whatever. I know that there are people who like just my voice and no background music. Um, but these things, when I look at what everyone else is doing, um, every other channel, if you just search bedtime stories or sleep stories or guided meditations, every single one that comes up, uh, which has a lot of views, even channels with like 10, 20, 30,000 subscribers, every single one that comes up has synth based background music. Some have a couple of natural sounds in them. I've always found that high risk. If I put birds on them, I end up like woodland sounds. I end up with people complaining that they don't like the sound of birds. If I put waves on, people complain that they end up needing the toilet. So it's easier not to have either, because although I know there are people, including myself, who like that, there's a lot of people who obviously get annoyed by it as well. So, but all of them have synth music in the background, just sort of gentle music in the background. All of them have, uh, oddly, because I just randomly clicked on one of the first videos I saw earlier on today. Um, I can't remember why, but I was just wanting to search through the comments, and I was trying to see if there was any. That wasn't why I clicked on it, but that's why I ended up staying on it. Um, and I was searching through the comments. I think it was of one of Michael Seeley's videos, and I was looking, seeing does he get the same kind of comments that I get, where um, maybe 1 in 10 or 1 in 20 comments is someone complaining about the spaces between my words. And I scrolled through literally probably 300-400 comments, and there was not a single comment complaining about the spaces between his words. And yet I was listening to it while I was scrolling, and I was counting in my head every time he paused. And not only was he talking slow and measured like I do, um, but he had like 8, 10, 15-second pauses between chunks of his words, exactly the same as I do, but no complaints. Whereas on my channel, I regularly get complaints about that. But his has some gentle synth music in the background to fill some of that space with some noise rather than absolute silence. So yeah, so the changes I'm making are pretty much changes it's all stuff I've done on my channel. I had music in the background of my videos. People said they would like it without it. I ended up listening to everyone and getting rid of the music. I had natural sounds and things. People said they didn't like it, so I got rid of the natural sounds. Um, I've done it without introduction, without a YouTube introduction, and people prefer it without the YouTube introduction. But I don't get any subscribers because people don't remember to subscribe. So yeah, so it's changes I've done before, but it was just a case of me looking and thinking, okay, so all of these um, videos from all these other creators have this same structure. Literally, whoever I click on, whether it's the Honest Guys, Jason Stevenson, Michael Seeley, um, Sleep Cove, I think it's called, um, all of these different creators from channels with like 20 or 30,000 subscribers up to Jason Stevenson and Michael Seeley with over 1 million, and the Honest Guys with over 1 million subscribers. Whatever one I go on, every single one has the same structure. So it was more just a case of seeing if it makes a difference, because I put probably about 70 hours a week into trying to do YouTube. And so I'm kind of at that point, a year into doing this with sleep stories and guided sleep meditations, of thinking I need to try and get it so that the views and the subscriber rate of new subscribers kind of matches the fact that it says I've got 75,000 subscribers nearly. It's kind of disappointing when I see that I've got 75,000 subscribers and I see in my analytics that an incredibly small percentage of my subscribers actually watch my content. So there's lots of people subscribed, but incredibly small numbers of people watch my content out of my subscribers. And then, to see that I can release a video and on average might get a few thousand listens a week. I'll have the odd video that does really well, but I'll have a few thousand views on most videos across a week. And then because the next week I've released a new video, people stop watching the previous week's one. So not everyone stops watching, but the most people always watch the latest video rather than having favorites. So as I say, not everyone does that, but I can see in the analytics, most people, as soon as I release the next week's video, the previous week's video plummets in views because everyone has already moved on to the next one. So yeah, obviously people probably just subscribe to listen on the odd occasion when they can't sleep. But the whole point is that there are these other channels that are even smaller than mine. So I'm talking about channels with 10 to 30,000 subscribers that will post a new video and get significantly more views on their videos than I do. And obviously, having done this now for 18, 19, 20, nearly 14 years, I've been doing YouTube. I used to go to every single YouTube event in London. So all their training events and their other sort of events. And so I know quite a lot about what's supposed to happen and what's supposed to work. This kind of video is different to most videos because you can't do things like having the call to action at the end. I can't do the meditation and then at the end say, right, if that was great, like it. If you want more, subscribe. I can't do that at the end because obviously everyone's hopefully asleep. So it's some of it is trying to learn from others who do the same kind of thing, whereas YouTube kind of teaches you the general way of what works for what their analytics show them works for creators. So and I know that stuff does work for me as well. When I've put the call to action on it saying subscribe, verbally saying subscribe, it gives me about 4 times more subscribers. If I don't put that, then I don't get those subscribers. But see, I never call it begging though, because it literally is that if you don't remind people that they can subscribe, people largely don't subscribe. And I'm as guilty as others. There's a lot of channels I've watched for ages where I've always clicked off before they get to that bit, because most creators do it at the end. I've normally clicked off. I've watched the video. I know they're wrapping up now. I click off it and watch something else. And then it's been like 6 months in, and I've suddenly thought, I literally watch their videos every week and I'm not subscribed. And it's normally at the point where YouTube hasn't shown me one of their videos because I'm not subscribed. And I think, oh, they normally do a video. Where is it? And because I'm not subscribed, I don't see it. I then go searching for it. And then I think I better subscribe because YouTube hasn't been showing it to me lately. So that's normally when I end up subscribing. So if someone does a call to action, it reminds me, oh, I better remember to subscribe because I'll probably forget, and I want to see their videos. Um, but yeah, so that's why I'm making the changes, is because I've got to try something to see if it makes a difference, by kind of doing my videos like everyone else is doing theirs. If it doesn't make a difference, then obviously, because doing what I'm doing takes probably 4 times more time, if not more than that, to make a video that has, um, I don't know, some kind of relaxing thing on screen and background music and everything. It all takes so much longer for me to create. Um, it is much quicker to just do the have a black screen and have uh, audio, but that's obviously much quicker to process. It's just obviously not the most popular thing. Um, so yeah, so it's just trying to see whether it's worth carrying on doing the whole YouTube thing by trying new things and seeing if I can get it so that my kind of subscriber levels match, or the rate of getting new subscribers and the rate of views match the the sort of size of channel I'm supposed to have. Yeah, I've never heard of that person. Yeah, obviously, if the changes don't work out, my plan would be to probably just drop to maybe kind of ignoring YouTube and posting just a video every now and then, um, to kind of cut back. There's not a lot of point in putting in 70 or more hours a week, if the kind of return on that doesn't equal 70 hours worth of work. Because I sort of am at that point, partly because of all the COVID stuff that's been going on. I think that's changed people's habits of what they're spending time doing. So I need to put a bit more time back into my sort of online education type of area, um, and into my writing to try and raise my income a bit more over there again, because I've kind of let that go a bit by focusing a lot on YouTube over the last however many months. I think I started focusing a lot on YouTube back during the beginning of the uh, sort of lockdown stage, where I was kind of doing it all for everyone here. Um, yeah, I'm glad I'm not on my mobile phone trying to deal with autocorrect right now. Don't know. I've almost never traveled out of the time zone I'm in. I've been to Dubai 3 times, I think 3 times. Um, Poland once. I can't remember if that's a slightly different time zone, an hour different or something. But yeah, I've never really been out of the time zone. Yeah, my view would be that having something on screen doesn't really matter because you can just cover the screen and your eyes are closed. But I do get comments like, even just the other day, someone said, I can't watch this. It freaked me out having nothing on screen. And my reply was, that shouldn't be a problem when, the first thing I say, or one of the first things, is just take a moment to let your eyes close. And if your eyes are closed, there could be, I don't know, a smiley face on screen. There could be nothing on screen. You wouldn't know. But yeah, so, and I've had a few people comment that that it freaks them out that there's nothing on screen, um, even though it's literally your eyes are closed. And likewise, when people complain about having something on screen, again, I just sort of think, well, just turn your mobile phone upside down, and that should shut out the light. Um, so I've had things both ways. I've had people complain there's nothing on screen and complain that there's something on screen. But the hello, glad you've remembered now. The You've thrown me now. I was about to say something, and I thought I'd acknowledge you there. Um, no, it'll come to me. Yeah, the first 30 seconds are very important. It's not entirely 30 seconds, but yeah, the first bit is very important. That's the bit. Nearly everything in what I do is set up around helping with anxiety, stress, and worry. And sometimes, if it's come up in the live chat, other things like grief, I think I did last week, um, pain, I've done fairly recently. So a few other bits and pieces I'll add in there. But the bit that's specific about sleep is the suggestions I give at the very, very beginning. So those suggestions at the very beginning for whether you'll go deeper asleep to the sound of my voice or the spaces between my words, all that stuff there is the bit that kind of sets you up to falling asleep by choosing to carry on listening. Um, and obviously, then there's the anchoring thing of I try and do everything in a similar way each time, so that just hearing my voice saying certain words should trigger the process of that you're familiar with if you use this stuff regularly. I do have a lucid dreaming um, video on my channel somewhere. Obviously, my videos, the sleep meditations aren't designed to trigger lucid dreaming, because to trigger lucid dreaming, you need something to help to encourage alertness while you're dreaming. Um, so, like a sound or something to happen just at the point when you're in REM sleep. Well, it's better drugs than actual pills or something like that. Um, I don't know. The most important things I think are consistently uploading and posting content. Lucid dreaming is just the process of becoming aware in your dream, so aware that you are dreaming. And most people, when they learn it, can become aware that they're dreaming and then control that. So because they're aware, they can control themselves within their dream. Personally, I don't recommend people intentionally going out of their way to lucid dream if you're someone who experiences high anxiety or anything, because the chances are your dreams are filled with sort of heightened versions of the emotions from the day. So, say today I had a bunch of anxiety inducing experiences, then when I dream, what happens when you're dreaming is emotions are cranked right up. So when I dream, the emotions that during the day were just anxiety would be perhaps fear. And so it's good if I dream that fear without having conscious awareness that I've dreamt that fear during the night. Whereas lucid dreaming, you could end up being lucid and aware during those anxiety or fearful dreams, and that can then be really unpleasant for you. So people do use lucid dreaming as therapy. So people who are capable will say face that fear dream, and they'll, because they're lucid and in control, they can then take control of the dream and control what actions they're doing in the dream, and then hopefully work through something therapeutically by having that control in the dream. um, but you can kind of try and direct yourself to have more relaxing dreams. You can listen to things like meditations about pleasant things before you go to bed, stuff that can encourage you to dream about those things instead. Yeah, so you can kick the monster's butt in your dream, for example. Whereas that dream ordinarily would have played out. The whole point is your dreaming will resolve whatever the issue is, but you'll have control over it in theory. Yeah, when you dream, you're closing the patterns from the day. So generally, the more you, for example, if you learn a lot during the day, you end up daydreaming a lot because you're learning a lot, and you dream a lot more at night because you're processing and updating a lot of patterns from all this stuff you've been learning. Um, Anxiety and worry involves a lot of opening patterns that need closing. Like, what if this happens? What if that happens? I'm worried that this may go wrong or that may go wrong. All of that's opening up patterns that need closing. So your brain then goes through, and your brain is kind of doing, it's like someone opening up dozens of documents on a computer, and your brain is going through saying, right, save, close, save, close, save, close, save, through every document. Um, my lucid dreaming one is lucid dreaming. Um, well, generally, things that make the individual who's resting feel calm and relaxed. So, for example, for most people, nature is a good one. But some people, for example, like beaches and things. Other people are fearful of water, and so a beach would be no good for them. Some people like woodland. Other people perhaps get claustrophobic when they're in woodland because they feel like, maybe they've seen horror films and things, and so they just feel like the trees are all crowding in around them. So a woodland type of experience isn't right for them. Someone else might like being up a mountain. But some people might hate being up a mountain. So it's what's right for that individual, which is why I try with all my stories to create as much variety as possible of different types of things, so that hopefully, and then I give descriptions to try and help people, so that people can then think, right, I like mountains, or I like woodland, or I like the ocean, or whatever, and they can hopefully then pick stories that fit them, save those stories into their own playlist so that they know, here's a bunch of stories that fit me and suit me and work for me. Um, I have a handful of meditations that I've listened to for the last 20 or so years that are the same ones I've listened to and will probably continue to listen to, despite the fact that more are always coming on the market. They're the ones that I like, they're the ones I resonate with. And so I stick to those same ones over and over again, and sometimes listen to some of my own as well. So let's start getting your ideas. Let me get my purple pen. Um, but yeah, so obviously, um, with my YouTube channel, it's yeah, I can relax to my own, and I do relax to some of my own. I relax to the steel tongue drum music that I created as well. Um, so and other bits and pieces. Let me just write, or else. someone remembered from last week. By the way, I'm missing some of these because each time I look up, there are loads that have scrolled off of screen as they keep scrolling past. Cool about the purple pen. Bookstore filled with oxygen would probably be very dangerous. You wouldn't want a spark in there. I think I mentioned gyroscope. I definitely thought it while I was saying something. A healthy bonsai tree. I don't think I've seen one of them. My brother, at one point, had reason to end up asking if I could look after his bonsai tree. Very shortly afterwards, there was no bonsai tree. It was more a bonsai stick. And yeah, I'm happy to be sent something and I'll record it into something if you want me to. Right. Sand dunes and a sandstorm. The one that goes live tomorrow has a sandstorm in it. Yeah, I've got rain. If it wasn't for you, not just you specifically, Michelle, but if it wasn't for you, all of you, that is, um, I'd have nothing written down on my page, and then you wouldn't get any stories. So I need you to make the content for yourself. Right. That's probably most stuff. Put my pen there. Another moderator handled that before me. Glad that the stories have been helpful. So, I have to make sure I'm comfortable. Not too comfortable, but comfortable enough to read. Pop the arms up out my way. I've got a book of Dracula and Frankenstein there. Move that out of the way. Don't need that right now. Good night. Hopefully you enjoy this later. Well, I need my oxygen. My brother's got me a smartwatch. Tells me how nervous I am, how stressed I am even, what my heart rate is, how many steps I've walked, not enough really, and how many calories I've burned. Again, it only seems to tell me how many calories I've burned based on the steps I've walked, not throughout my day. It doesn't like gradually increase. And it tells me how I've slept as well, which is an interesting chart to look at. Yeah, it's the Huawei, I don't know, something or other. I'm not good with random names or names in general. Right, let's just make sure I can read everything. Mine tells me I don't get enough continuous deep sleep. Yep, the watch is Bob. So let's have a look. Yeah, that's not going to happen. Not in something for sleep. This does my oxygeny thing as well, which is interesting. Yeah, I do have, or did have, an Uncle Bob as well. So just take a moment to allow your eyes to close and allow yourself to begin to relax. And as you begin to relax, I'm just going to tell this sleep meditation in the background. And while I tell this sleep meditation, I don't know whether you'll drift deeper to the sound of my voice or to the spaces between my words. And as you begin to comfortably drift asleep, you can have a sense of walking from a porch of a farmhouse down into a large garden. And you're walking down into that garden just as the sun's setting. You can hear the sounds of nighttime insects beginning to start in the background, and the quietening down of the birds. You can hear the baaing of sheep, the occasional sound of a cowbell, and the sound of each footstep on dry grass. And as you walk, crunching through that dry grass, you head towards the back of the garden, and you can see a large tree silhouetted against the sky in the background. And you walk to that tree, and as you get to the tree, so you walk around the tree to a tree swing. You touch the rope of the swing with your hand, feeling that rope in the palm of your hand, feeling the sensation of the rope against the fingertips as you gently slide that hand down the rope, feeling the weight of the wooden seat as it swings and sways while you move your hand down that rope. And a part of your mind thinks back to a time in the past when you were much younger, when, with friends, you'd created this swing in this garden. And you'd struggled up the tree, attaching the rope. And all these years later, it's still here, hanging. And you've grown up with this swing in the garden. You've grown up on this farm. This farm that's had many generations growing up, tending to the animals, creating stories that you only get on a farm. And you sit on that swing, and your feet are on tiptoes, and you just push gently on the ground to start yourself swinging slightly. And you can feel a slight breeze on your face, and you can feel the warmth of that breeze. And as you feel the warmth of that breeze, so you know that there's likely to be a storm coming. But for now, the air seems quite still, with that breeze being mainly from the movement of you swinging on that swing. And you just gently swing and relax. And as you relax and focus on the experience of swinging, so you can notice the way the branch above your head is moving ever so slightly while you swing backwards and forwards. You can feel the rope in your hands and the wooden seat, just listening to the evening sounds around you. And while you swing, so you notice clouds gently clearing off the moon, and while those clouds gently move away from the moon, that moonlight illuminates the sheep in the field. And so you gaze over towards those sheep, and as your legs just fall into their own natural rhythm of gently swinging backwards and forwards, keeping you swinging ever so slightly on that swing, almost swinging you deeper into relaxation. You know how many sheep are in the field, and you decide to count those sheep off. And so you look to the far side, and you count 50, 49, 48, 47, 46, 45, and you just count in your mind as your eyes scan those sheep. 44, 43, 42, 41, and occasionally the sheep move, where you suddenly notice a sheep's head pop up from behind another sheep, or a sheep suddenly steps out from behind another sheep, and you realize that there are two sheep where you once thought there was only one. And so you start again, 50, 49, 48, 47, 46, 45, 44, 43, 42. And you carry on counting those sheep. And sometimes you lose count, almost like the numbers are just gone, like it becomes too much effort to keep counting. Almost like your eyes just want to close, as if counting the sheep is just making you sleepier and sleepier, while your body just swings gently on that swing. And each time you lose your place, you start back at 50, counting from that top corner again, 49, 48, 47, 46, 45, and each time you have to start counting again. You find yourself becoming deeper and deeper relaxed and more absorbed in the experience. almost as if your eyes are getting tunnel vision on those sheep, trying really hard to focus, to count, knowing that another part of your mind is just wanting to wander and drift off, and that the more you look over and try and count those sheep, the more your eyes want to close, and the deeper and deeper relaxed you become, until you lose track of the numbers, and after a while of trying to count from 50, 49, 48, 47, 46, going deeper and deeper, 45, 44, 43, 42, 41, 40, 39, 38, 37, and each time you lose track of the numbers, you go even deeper until eventually it's just easier to let go. And when it becomes too hard to keep trying to count those sheep, especially when they keep moving positions, when number 47 becomes number 36, and so you start again, but now number 46 is number 47, and they all change places. And so as you try in vain to keep counting, eventually the numbers just disappear. The effort to count just disappears. It's almost like the mind just decides to go quiet and relax. And as your mind quietens down, from time to time you'll decide to try really hard again to count those sheep, knowing that each time you try to count the sheep, the more you try to count the sheep, the harder and harder it becomes to try to stay awake. And you begin to drift into your mind deeper, while your body just swings gently on that swing. Almost as if you drift into the most pleasant daydream. Your ears can still hear your surroundings. You can still feel that you're balanced perfectly fine. You can still feel those hands on the rope. You can still feel the way those legs are gently moving backwards and forwards, the way that swing is gently swinging backwards and forwards. And yet you drift deeper and deeper into a daydream. And as you drift deeper into a daydream, so it's like the body goes onto autopilot as the mind begins to fly. And while the mind flies, you suddenly discover that you're flying in an unusual way. You suddenly notice a rose, almost like a giant rose in front of you, and you steer to avoid the rose. And you steer to avoid a sunflower. And then you land on a leaf and discover that you're the most beautiful butterfly. And while standing on the leaf, you can see yourself reflected in some water. And as you move your wings, you notice The way the light seems to twinkle and sparkle off those wings, the way they seem to go through shades of blue and purple as they move in the sun. And you realize you're flying around on a sunny day, around the most beautiful garden, aware of the scents of different flowers, and aware of the perspective of things down here at this scale. And you fly around that garden, and you settle down and have a sweet drink before flying off somewhere else, settling down again. And then you decide to settle down near a pool of water, near what to a human would just be a pond, but to you at the scale of a butterfly looks more like a giant lake. And as you just rest there by that pond, you watch the ripples of the water as the wind blows a breeze. You see the occasional fish pop its mouth up to the surface before disappearing back into that pond again. You hear the sound of a frog, and then watch as a frog suddenly jumps from among some tall grass and plops into the water, swims across that water, climbs out the other side of the pond. And while you gaze into the center of that pond, you notice that the waves seem to be moving in one direction with the breeze, but then they start bouncing off the sides, and you notice a second direction of waves. And then as they bounce off another side, you notice a third direction of waves. You notice there seems to be an interference pattern. Some areas, the waves seem to cancel out, and there seems to be no waves. But those waves and the rhythm of them seem to be in harmony, making the peaks get taller and taller until they seem like really large waves for such a small pond. And they're bouncing in an increasingly complex pattern. Then after a few moments, you notice that in the center of those waves, there seems to be a larger and larger trough right in the middle of that pond. And then the water seems to begin to circle around that hole in the middle. And the waves seem to turn into a whirlpool, getting faster and faster. And as that whirlpool increases and increases, suddenly you notice yourself almost being drawn to that whirlpool. And you try to keep yourself back, You try to remain where you are. And all of a sudden, you feel yourself pulled out of that butterfly's body, almost like a whole human suddenly being pulled out of a butterfly, almost like your consciousness has formed a representation of your physical being as you get pulled from the butterfly into that whirlpool. You pass down into the whirlpool, and as soon as you do, you notice an intense, pleasant silence. You notice that all around you is just a comfortable light, not bright, not dark, just a comfortable, even light. And there's a faint pulsing from in front of you, passing down beside each side of you, all around you, and then off behind you. And you don't know if that pulsing is actually you traveling forward past something static, or if you're static and that pulsing is happening around you. You realize you have no reference, no sense that you're moving, but also no sense that you're not moving. And so that comfortable pulsing light happens around you. And after a little while, you begin to see a dark spot off in the distance. And you realize that that dark spot is getting larger and larger. Until eventually you suddenly find yourself popping out of that dark spot, out of the end of what you now think of as probably a wormhole. And you don't know how that wormhole formed in the pond, and how the other end of that wormhole formed out here where you now are. But you find yourself falling down into a desert at night time. You notice how cool it is here in this desert at night time, as you have a sense of falling onto that cool desert sand, that incredibly soft sand, rolling in that sand, coming to a stop. And you have this feeling that you're just consciousness here, but that your consciousness is projecting a physical body around you, so that you feel comfortable and have an experience that you expect to have. In the same way that some people can have a missing limb and can experience the existence of a limb that no longer exists, and can experience sensations in that limb, that the consciousness has the power to do this. And so you stand up, you begin to walk through this desert, noticing the blue hue of the night sky on the desert sand. noticing the way the moon illuminates the tips of the sand dunes, and the silence out here in the desert, the peace here in this desert. And on the horizon, you notice what looks like the outline of some trees. So you begin to walk towards those trees. And as you get closer and closer, you notice that it is trees, and you begin to smell the smell of water. And you arrive at an oasis here in the desert. And when you arrive at that oasis, you see somebody sat next to a campfire. So you walk over to that person, and they tell you this is the oasis in the mind. That this oasis is a safe haven for positive thoughts. Buried in this barren location. It allows you to travel out into the desert. Spend time with thoughts, and yet know you've got somewhere safe to come back to. And they tell you that they're going to teach you how to get into the right mind-body state for long journeys in deserts. How to be able to control your breathing. How to be able to optimize the functioning of your mind-body. And you're curious about this. So you sit down next to them. You listen to the crackling fire. You watch the way the light dances. You hear the gentle lapping of the water on the shore. The slight rustling of the leaves in the trees. And you hear their voice. And they say, just allow your eyes to be closed. And with your eyes closed, you can be aware of the rustling leaves. You can notice the flickering flame and the light of that through your eyelids. You can hear the sound of the water gently lapping on the shore. You can smell the smell of the fire. You can smell the fresh smell of the water. You can feel the sense of the air as you breathe in and out. And you can feel what it feels like to be sat right there. And you can hear my voice. And my voice will go with you. And my voice may take many forms. It may take the form of the wind. It may take the form of the rain. It may take the form of the sounds of birds in the background or rustling leaves. It may take many different forms, and you'll just know that my voice is there with you in the background while you go on your journey deep inside your mind. As you relax deep inside your mind, so you can notice how the out breath gradually gets longer than the in breath. You can notice how the breathing deepens and softens, how the muscles around your face soften, perhaps softening with the warmth from the fire, as the shoulders and the muscles around your neck soften and relax, softening and relaxing more with each out breath, with that softening spreading down through the muscles in the arms, the shoulders, the upper back, down into the lower back, down the chest and the stomach muscles, all the way down to your legs, softening and relaxing through your legs down to your feet. And as your body relaxes deeply, so your mind can begin to relax. And you came here through a wormhole, and you're exploring this desert, and you've settled down by this lake, and you can hear those sounds around you. And you can begin to access a library in your mind. And that library in your mind is connected to a universal library that what you think of as a concept of being just in your mind is actually universal and is larger than the physical space that you think of as where your mind resides. And that what you're really doing is relaxing the mind to a point where the brainwaves resonate with the frequencies of the fabric of the universe. And as that resonating happens, so that library forms more fully in your mind. And after a few moments, you'll be there. You'll have access to universal knowledge and wisdom. And consciously, you may not necessarily understand or realize what you have access to, but you are learning here. And my voice can be those sounds in the background while you become absorbed in the library. A library of billions of books, and each book has its own knowledge. And navigating the library is an instinctive thing. Overthinking can get you lost. Just going with the flow navigates you round the library, helps you to find the right book for any given moment. And you can think about what book or books you could do with reading today. And you don't have to know exactly, consciously, what those books are, because it's about instinctively, almost stumbling upon the right books, just finding yourself in a part of a library where you think, oh, I'll just have a look at that. I'm curious about that book there. And you may not even know exactly what drew you to a given book. Maybe it was a title. Maybe it was the font the title was written in. Maybe it was the cover design. Maybe it was something about how that book looked. Perhaps the book looked old and you got drawn to the way that looked. Perhaps the book looked new and that drew you to it. Perhaps you had a sense of what the book will smell like and you felt almost that compulsion to reach forward, to pick the book off the shelf so that you could open the book and have a smell and absorb more knowledge from the scent. And you can explore the library, noticing the sounds of your footsteps as they can echo around this library, even if you try and walk quietly. And my voice can go with you in the background, just as a guide, almost like a slight breeze guiding you from one corridor to another. And as you open a book, you can find a book that when you open it, you see yourself in that book. And you realize as you're looking through that book that this is one of many books of your life, not the life you have led, but the life and the lives of every other you that's ever existed and ever made a decision. And you realize there's a whole section of this library with books that are infinitely large and yet fit on a shelf, where you can be turning the pages endlessly and seem to have as much book left as you had when you started turning the pages, realizing that these books chronicle every version of your life that there could have been. And some of those you can learn from. You can't change where you are, but you can still learn from alternative decisions. And you can explore the books in this library to the extent that you begin to sit down on the floor, surrounded by books you're excited to read, even if you don't realize that consciously, where the knowledge will be helpful. And after a while of reading those books, I'll guide you onto the next level of this experience. When you've learned how to access different knowledge, and this knowledge will help you to know how to navigate the desert, how to be relaxed while walking through the harsh environments. And then after reading for a while, you can stand up and walk towards the door at the back of the room. And as you approach that door, you take hold of the door handle. You open that door. You can walk through and find yourself in the most beautiful English country garden. You can see that you're walking out of a little shed at the end of a country garden. And it's only a small property. You can see an old cottage and walk towards that old cottage, seeing rows of flowers, a well-kept lawn, noticing that the air is slightly crisp and fresh, the sounds of songbirds, the coolness of that air on your cheeks. And if you close your eyes to breathe in that fresh air, you can feel the coolness of the air on your eyelids and feel the coolness of it passing into your nostrils and down into your throat, and down into your lungs, almost filling you with a sense of comfort. And as you walk into this cottage, you can notice that it's as if the person who lived here had just gone out. You can find a note saying, "Make yourself comfortable." And after the time you've had, the note says, "Upstairs is a sensory deprivation tank. You may enjoy giving that a go." And so you head upstairs and you see what looks like a hot tub with a lid. You get yourself prepared. You climb inside. You lie down in that water. You close the lid. And you notice all the sound stop. And the water's at a temperature that you're barely aware that it's there. And your body is well supported by that water. And every now and then, you blink your eyes just to check and see if they're open or closed, because you're unable to tell. And you start to drift into an inner experience where there's no time, there's no up or down, left or right, backwards or forwards. There's just here and now. And the silence just helps you drift deeper into the experience. And then after a few moments of drifting deeper into the experience, you start to hear the sound of the sea. You hear the sound of the ocean, of water rolling up a shore of pebbles and then rolling back out again, pulling those pebbles back out into the sea. And a few moments later, rolling back into shore again, and then pulling those pebbles back out again into the sea. And you begin to have this feeling like you're lying on the most comfortable towel on the beach. And you start to have this sense of a slight orange glow, like it's a sunny day and your eyes are closed. And you have this feeling like you could just open your eyes and you'd be on a beach. And with your eyes still closed, you feel around with your hands, feeling with your fingertips. And you can feel that towel beneath you. You can feel the pebbles beneath the towel. You open your eyes and you see the most beautiful, sunny blue sky. You can hear seagulls. You can hear that water lapping on the shore, rolling in and out, gently pulling those stones back out to sea. And you stand up and you walk, crunching your way through the stones, all the way down to the seashore, walking into the sea, feeling the warmth of that water as it laps up over your feet, and that tickling of that water as it pulls the pebbles and sand down over your feet. And in the wind and the sounds of the seagulls, you have this sense of being communicated, that this is a deep, deep part of your mind, an oasis in your mind. It's the heart of your mind and the mind of your heart. And from here, the heart of your mind and the mind of your heart can become what you want it to be. All you have to do is sit down, gaze out to sea, and while you gaze out to sea, the heart of your mind and the mind of your heart become one, resonate with each other, and pulse that frequency out into the world. From deep in your mind, connecting with the universe. And this ocean view will become what you want it to be. The place that's your oasis in the mind. And so you sit there a little longer, gazing out over the ocean, And then you notice it changing to what you want this place to be. And it's your own personal experience. And you see what you see here, what you hear here. Feel what you feel. You can smell what you smell here, taste what you taste here, experiencing what you experience, while the voice takes on the form of anything in the background, of different sounds in the background. And then after a while, that can seem a long time, and sometimes a long time can seem a short time. And you can discover what the time seems to you. And that voice can begin guiding you back through the experience, initially taking the form of the breeze, the form of the sounds of birds. As you feel this sense of relaxing back on that towel, and then after a while, discovering yourself in that sensory deprivation tank where you open the lid. You sort yourself out and head downstairs. You have something to drink, something to eat. You have this sense of smelling soup in the kitchen. And notice a glass of pina colada on the kitchen work surface. And you see a little old lady out in the back garden of this little cottage, tending to her herb garden. And as you walk out into the garden, she greets you with the most beautiful, kind smile. She says that she hopes you enjoyed your trip and that you'll be back to visit soon. She looks forward to preparing a meal for you when you next visit, and hopes that you'll take time to sit with her and share your experiences with her. And you have this thought to yourself that you imagine that'll happen at some point when you sleep and dream, that you'll take a couple of minutes and it will feel like many hours of sitting and chatting with her. And you're curious what healing will come from that chat. You have this sense that she's wiser than you imagine. As you head back to the hedge, as you head back to the shed, and you open that shed door, and as you open the shed door, you find your way back through the library, and you see pinned on a wall a list. And you notice that now many items are crossed off that list, and many new items have been added to the bottom, things to achieve that are meaningful to you. And you know that you easily and effortlessly, without even realizing it, achieved those items that are crossed off the list. And that you have this instinctive feeling you're going to find it just as easy and effortless to work through the rest of that list. And you sit down on the floor of the library. You close your eyes. And you begin to have this sense of being back in that oasis. You start to hear that person's voice guiding you back to the here and now in the oasis, as if they've been talking to you the whole time, even though you know you can't recall hearing their voice the whole time. And as you open your eyes in the oasis and see them smiling at you, welcoming you back, you realize a sandstorm seems to have whipped up in the desert all around you. And it seems to be spinning around and around the oasis. But the oasis isn't getting sandy at all. And they tell you that the oasis is immune to the sand. And the sand just whips around and around that oasis. They tell you it's time to find your way back to that wormhole. And you comment on the sandstorm, and they tell you it's time to head over the dunes and find your way back to the wormhole. And you comment again about the sandstorm. And they just look at you and say, trust yourself. It'll be okay. And they look you square in the eyes when they tell you that. And then you see a smile come to their eyes, a reassuring smile, a slight nod to their head. And then they tap you on the shoulder. You stand up and you walk out into the sandstorm. And you trust yourself. And you walk through the sandstorm, following your instinct. Just focusing on keeping your balance as you cross that sand. Just focusing on being in the moment. Until eventually you find your way to that wormhole. And as you reach into the wormhole, so you find your way zapped back through that wormhole. You notice the sudden peace of being out of that sandstorm. That pulsing of the light down the tunnel. That feeling of not knowing whether the light is moving around you or you're moving past the light. The softness and gentleness of the light through here. The silence of the tunnel. As you pop out in that pond and feel your consciousness fly through the air, landing back in that butterfly. And as a butterfly, you fly up, stretch your wings. You land near a bonsai tree. You think to yourself how this tree makes you feel more comfortable at this size. It feels more normal, the way this tree towers over you, than the other trees in the garden. You then fly back through the garden and find your way all the way back to having a sense of swinging on that swing. And as you swing on that swing, suddenly realizing you lost track of how many sheep you had counted, and wondering how long you drifted inside your mind. And you look around you as you draw that swing to a halt, and you can see way off in the distance thunderclouds with glowing lightning within the clouds. And you're so far away at the moment that you can't hear any noise from that storm, but you see that the storm is heading your way. And you knew from the air that this was occurring, and that it would be only a matter of time before there was a storm tonight. As you head down to the fields, you sort all the animals out, make sure they'll be fine during the storm. You check on each animal, you pet each animal, you know each animal by name. You make sure they're going to be okay, just as you feel the first drop of rain on your cheek. You then head back home. You sit on the porch for a while as those raindrops increase from the occasional drop of rain to heavier and heavier rain, to smelling the smell of the ground as that hot earth gets some rainwater for the first time in a long time, noticing the change to the smell of the air as the rain clears the air, catches particles and carries them to the ground. And then hearing that gentle rumble of thunder, and noticing the flashing of lightning as the storm gradually gets closer and closer. And then when you feel the time is right, you head indoors and you settle down on a seat for a little while. You take some time to read a good book before heading off to bed. And as you go to bed, so you spin a gyroscope that's next to the bed. And while you lie in bed, you watch that spinning and the way it stays upright. And as you watch that gyroscope spinning, so you drift to thoughts of the wormhole, and you wonder about the experience, that you felt like you closed your eyes for just a few moments, and yet you've got these memories of this experience that seemed to have taken many, many hours and seemed so real. And as you watch that gyroscope and drift into your mind, you start to have this sense of counting sheep, almost like the sheep you are counting outside. 50, 49, 48, 47, 46. And you find it hard to keep track of the numbers. You find it hard to keep counting, like your mind begins to wander. And as your mind begins to wander and you lose track of the numbers, while you try really hard to keep counting, so a voice in your mind tells you that your experience on the swing was more than just a reverie. It was something so much deeper and more profound, and that by counting the sheep, you can learn more about the experience. All you have to do is be counting the sheep to the point where you forget where the numbers go and seem to disappear, where it becomes too much effort to keep counting those sheep, and you just drift into your mind, into the experience. And when that happens, then you'll learn more about the experience and will be able to access it all again in a whole new way, in a way that can be so profound, a way that can help you sleep all night so well and optimally that you wake feeling incredible in the morning, looking forward to a night's sleep, looking forward to each night's sleep as you just drift and float comfortably and relaxed asleep.